Laurie and Arthur met in London 5 years ago. Laurie is Australian and Arthur is from Cork. They've decided to come back to Ireland to try and make a life for themselves together in Cork. When did Arthur first realise he was gay?
I don't think it was probably actual realization that I was gay. Would kind of creeps on you over the idea that you're different, which emerges from that, you know, the way you see other people moving from you in their activities and their energies.
Did you try going out with girls?
Yes. You know, if going out is the right expression, but I did try and kept trying, you know, until my mid-20s, and you know, to kind of detriment of my own development and the people, you know, that I was relating to quite falsely.
How did you find out that you were actually gay?
I'd say in my mid-teens, you know, but I mean, again, I mean, in terms of expressing it or anything like that, I mean, all it was something I just locked inside myself totally, you know. I mean, it was something I was aware of inside myself. It caused incredible conflicts and sort of anxiety and things like that. But I mean, I was unaware of something just inside myself. I didn't try to explain it in terms of myself. I'd more tried to block it out, you know. I didn't want to know about it, sort of thing.
The realization that you were different, how did that affect you and your family?
The questions you're asking are things that relate over very long periods, certainly in terms of how it affected myself. I think it came at... so there isn't any one answer to that. I mean, it's something that is happening continually. But I think in terms of my family, I think they are very shocked, and I think they would, in my immediate family, probably see it as in terms of inadequacy. I would think maybe on their part, or maybe certainly on my part, maybe. And they reflect, I would say. They probably wouldn't express, but they would feel that the fears and that, you know, are common to most people.
Do you see it as inadequacy?
No, I don't.
How did you both meet one another?
It was in London, in a nightclub in the King's Road.
And how long ago was that?
Sorry?
How long ago was that?
I think it was 1975, you know, about a year after I came to England. And very much by chance, really. I suppose at that stage, like, I was still, well, I mean, I was really searching, you know, like I was still in the, I mean, I was still very much alone, you know. I mean, I was a person that still hadn't related to gay people or talked very much about myself, you know. I was living in a flat in Battersea with some friends that I hadn't told I was gay yet, you know. And so I was still exploring things, or trying to, you know, very much on my own, in the format of what London had to offer, sort of thing, you know. And I was doing it totally on my own. Like, I mean, I was going to gay pubs and clubs, sort of thing, trying to meet people and things like that. But I mean, in terms of what my needs were then, you know, I mean, the pubs didn't really offer. So I mean, they were sort of, in a sense that they were sort of bringing up more of a conflict in terms of myself, because here I was, I mean, I had the chance of being part of all of these gay people, and yet I was finding myself even more isolated, you know, like I felt, you know, like I just had a sense when I went into the pubs that I was different again, sort of thing, you know, like on the level of how I found gays relating there, and the sexuality of it and things like that. I mean, I was rejecting it, you know.
Did you find
it's
it a false thing?
Internalization
yes.
of oppression, really, that
yes.
you are so long oppressed by the, you know, the society around you, that you internalize that oppression, and you oppress yourself, really, so that even if you go to a situation which is free or open, that you still carry with you.
Yeah.
I think that's the important thing now, is that you know, the oppression does damage you know, the development, sexual development, and you carry that with you for the rest of your life. I think you know, you can ideologically you can know that things are wrong or you know, but you can never really escape from it. You carry the oppression with you always, and that's you know, part of the you know, the kind of gay consciousness campaign is to, I think, is to get at that self-repression, really, which is the most, I think, the most important.
How long have you been together, Art?
About 5 years, nearly 5 years.
Is it unusual, Art, to have a gay relationship that looks like being permanent?
I think in the sense that you asked the question, I think yes. I think there are, in the sense of a formal relationship, that I think that is the case, yes, it is.
Why do you think that is?
Relationships are not reinforced by the society around you, that you are very much on your own, and if you take, again, it goes back to the development of you by your because your kind of sexual development has taken place in such a, I would say, impoverished surroundings, that when you actually come to relate to somebody, that you don't really have the capacity to do so. That again, you may have it ideologically, but when it comes down to actually living and sharing with somebody, I think it's more difficult.
I think also, like, that most gay people explore their sexuality or their relationships in very furtive fashions. Like I mean, most gay people would only be gay a couple of nights a week or something like that, you know, and they can't sort of tie it into their work or their families or the community that they're living in, you know. So I mean, most relationships between gays are for a couple of hours, you know, like, or it's friends that they go out and have a drink with and things like that, you know, and then they go back and they live a hidden life, you know, in terms of themselves, like they live a straight sort of front life, and so, like, there's no possibility of a relationship developing. I mean, most of them wouldn't be game to set up a situation to encompass both of them in a living situation, you know. Like, most gays are living at home, or they're living with straight friends. They're working, they're living as straight people, you know, for 99% of their life, you know.
Has it been difficult to maintain this relationship?
Yes, I mean, there's been lots of there's lots of conflict inside yourself. I mean, from not having related to people very closely myself, you know, when I was younger, you know, that to start relating to another person with their own complexities, their own identity, you know. I mean, and again myself, you know, and at the same time exploring, you know, you know, like, your own needs, and trying to accommodate another person's needs and things like that, without sort of the society around you giving you any feedback. Like you know, you don't see other gay couples, you don't see other gays relating to each other. You know, you don't. The society is not accommodating gays at all, sort of thing. You know, you've got to make it in an isolated sort of way. You know, and so, I mean, in the sense of that, you've got to accommodate a lot of frustrations, sort of thing. You know?
There's no sense of you don't get a sense of identity from the society around you.
Do you have a sense of husband and wife with yourselves?
No, I think we've probably quite successfully developed a sense of the need to retain an individualism anyway. You know, like I mean, it's just instead of like, say, on a you know, like a marriage structured relationship where the whole education of the man and the woman is to fulfill a role, you know, and they force themselves into that. But I mean, in terms of Arthur and myself, I suppose we're able to explore it in terms of and develop a relationship which doesn't sort of stereotype us, sort of thing, you know, like, it doesn't force us into a husband-wife role, sort of thing. We sort of develop it in terms of putting the importance on seeing ourselves as individuals living together, you know.
So why are you in this relationship at all?
Because, I suppose because of emotional needs.
If it was a thing that you both do stay together, how would you feel about forming yourselves into a kind of family unit? Would you like to adopt children?
I would like to live in a, you know, in a total situation which encompassed children. I don't really have.
We don't have a need
desire to have
for the
children
possession,
of our own.
for the possession, you know, of children. But certainly, I think we both would like, you know, to live in a situation where children were there. You know, I mean, we'd like to live in a situation where there were straight adults, you know, and maybe their children, you know, which were shared. You know, like you could share the experiences of and the pleasure of relating to children and things like that.
It's a complete situation, really, rather than being say, talking about the complete situation in terms of a family. I mean, I don't see the family as being like the ideal complete situation. I think they're rather...
Well, then would it not be true for people who would accuse gays of threatening the family structures?
I don't see it as threatening the family structure. I think it's just that you know, that for gay people, the family structure just does not accommodate them, you know. So if a gay person is going to try and explore the possibility of a meaningful life, you know, in terms of living in a community and living in this society, then they have to explore the possibility of creating an alternative style family.
What are the pressures, if any, of living as a gay couple?
The pressures are mainly that you know, it takes a constant sort of hassle to go out and be as a gay couple or a gay individual in terms of your everyday
I think
communication with society, sort of thing, you know.
Comes out in terms of that a lot of gay people do live within a kind of ghetto-like situation. I mean in terms of they spend a lot of their leisure time in relating to other gay people, and that is something that we have tried to avoid. I think it's there certainly is a lot of the pressure forces you into that. A lot of people into that type of situation.
Neither of you are what would be termed camp. Why is it that so many gay people seem to turn into screaming queens, very high camp kind of behaviour?
Well, the main reason I would think for that is that the for the average person, the gay image that they're confronted with by means of the television and by means of the whole media thing is the very obvious, you know, either effeminate character, and I think that just in society around you as well, that person is forced to come to terms with being, maybe not to come to terms, but is forced. They cannot hide their gayness, whereas the great majority of gay people do, in fact, quite successfully. And they look just like everybody else, in fact. But it would be probably you know, a little like if you were to identify you know, straight people or straight women in terms of and say the ideal of woman is some